Hey everyone, and welcome to our Q&A presented by Just Love. My name is Paula Jane and I'm talking to Judy Carroll. Judy is an internationally known author. Her books include The Zeta Message, Human by Day, Zeta by Night, and her most recent book, Extraterrestrial Presence on Earth, Lessons in History. Welcome, Judy.
Hi Paula, hi everyone.
In our last episode, we spoke about the human ladder. And so in this episode, we're going to expand on this topic. If you've read any of Judy's books, or if you've been listening for a while, you'll probably know about the human ladder. It was first introduced in the Zeta Message, and it also appears in Judy's latest book, Extraterrestrial Presence on Earth, Lessons in History. The human ladder is a fascinating subject, and that is why we decided to devote this episode to discussing it. So, Judy, what exactly is the human ladder?
Okay, big question. The human ladder is the path of evolution through which all human species in the universe ascend, from level 1 to level 10. One of the grey teachers referred to these as galactic levels, but we eventually figured out that they're not physical places as such. They're actually ascending and deepening levels of conscious awareness. Earth is on level 1, which simply means that humans here can access approximately 10% of our potential conscious awareness. As we evolve from levels 1 to 10 over the span of many lives, we're able to access more and more conscious awareness, right up to level 10, where we open up to full God or source consciousness, 100% in other words. The ones who are fully focused at this level are pure mind, and what people down here think of as angels. Source energy permeates the whole ladder, so our evolution up the ladder opens us up consciously to deeper and more expanded levels of oneness or source energy. Consciousness is the key word here, as opposed to sub or super consciousness, which we often need to be in an altered state to be able to access.
Okay, so in other words, as we evolve up the ladder, we're able to consciously access higher dimensions, just as here on Earth, we're able to consciously access the third dimensional reality.
Yes, exactly. It's our conscious perception that will be expanded to higher frequencies of energy.
So where did the human ladder come from?
The tall grey teacher we know as Oris initially gave us this information, then our other teacher Maris expanded on it. It is rather complex until you grasp that these levels are simply levels of conscious awareness. The amount of this awareness that we can access is intrinsically linked into the amount of our DNA that's activated. The so-called junk DNA that scientists down here talk about is just strands of DNA that are not yet activated.
Judy, you have an interesting story about the crop circle that you were given to help explain exactly what the human ladder is. Can you share this story with us, please?
Yes, Paula. My friend and co-author Helene Kay, her daughter Kira and I tried to draw what Oris was describing, but it was so complex. We were aware that these so-called galactic levels were sort of spiralling shapes coming out of a central core, and that they got bigger as they went up from 1 to 10. We wanted to feature it in the Zeta Message book, which was in the process of being written, but trying to draw this human ladder concept was beyond us, and we were getting frustrated. So jokingly, we asked Oris if upstairs could provide us with a crop circle to help us to illustrate it, as you do. A few nights later, this amazing crop circle appeared in Milk Hill Field in Wiltshire in the United Kingdom. It was so huge and so amazing that it actually got featured on our TV news. And as soon as I saw it, I knew that it was the human ladder. Luckily, they gave us a preview of it on TV, which enabled me to load a video and record it. From there, I was able to make a rough illustration. I couldn't get it exact, but it was close enough. But wait, there's more. At that stage, our publisher was trying to come up with a suitable cover illustration for the book, and out of the blue, an Australian crop circle researcher by the name of Brett Parrott contacted me through our website, where we talk about the terrific sense of humour that the Greys have. Brett was excited to have confirmation of this, as in his email he informed me that the circle makers had played a good joke on him during his recent trip to the UK. He'd been meditating in a field which he thought was Milk Hill Field, and during his meditation he'd put a message out to the circle makers that if they were real, would they please make a circle in Milk Hill Field. The next morning he came back to check, but no crop circle, so he just got on with his work and forgot about it. A day or so later he was checking out crop circles at a local internet cafe and was shocked to find a picture of the latest one that had appeared in Milk Hill Fields a day or two before, after a night of heavy rain.
Wow.
Totally puzzled, he went back to look. The field he'd been meditating in was empty, as it had been when he'd gone to check the first time, but on further searching he found out that where he'd been was not Milk Hill Field. Milk Hill Field was higher up and beyond the field he'd been in.
Oh, wow.
He was totally blown away when he realised that the circle makers had taken his request literally, in which he'd specified Milk Hill Field and had created their glyph right there. And that was the joke they'd played on him. Anyway, I suspect that it was our crop circle, so I asked him to identify it, and he emailed me his website and specified which one it was, and it was the same one. Luckily, he'd gone up in a helicopter and got a great photo of it, which he kindly gave us permission to use as the cover illustration of the Zeta message. We were all totally blown away because the request had obviously been put out simultaneously by us here and also by a fellow Aussie, Brett Parrott, over there. None of us knew the other, and the glyph was specifically featured on an Australian TV station. It was one of the biggest crop circles ever created, so all in all, the boys upstairs did a pretty good job, bless them.
Wow, that's amazing. That's absolutely mind-blowing. I've read it in your Zeta message book, but to listen to it again, wow, talk about amazing proof. Okay, now I want to ask you about the diagram that you drew and how it ties into how there are a certain number of planets on level 1. I know you said something about it when we were talking the other day planning this episode, but I can't remember how many that Oris told you that they were there. Also, your diagram depicts how the higher you go up the ladder, the larger it gets. Does that correlate with the number of dimensions, planets on that level?
Okay, Oris told us that there are approximately 1,000 other human-type life forms on level 1, the same level as Earth is on. In other words, there are at least 1,000 other planetary cultures on this level. Why the diagram that we did depicts the higher you go up the ladder, the larger the galactic levels become, actually illustrates the broadening and expanding amount of conscious awareness that we're able to tap into. It's not actually about physical places, planets, galaxies, etc. It's all about consciousness expansion.
Okay, so let's see if we can get this straight. When you were given the human ladder, you did an illustration of it, and this illustration is in your book, The Zeta Message. This particular illustration is a reflection of how consciousness increases the further we go up the ladder. So it's not so much about level 1 being smaller because there aren't as many planets or dimensions residing in this space.
No, the size is more to do with consciousness, although compared to the rest of the universe there are less human-type species at level 1. Most human species have evolved to higher levels beyond 3D. This is why scientists down here aren't having much success trying to find human life on other planets that they can pick up on with their limited 3D equipment. Earth-plane humanity has been held back with interference to their DNA, which in turn has limited their conscious awareness. And we're not talking about brain here, we're talking about consciousness, which is independent of the brain. A good way to understand this is to compare it with our respiratory system. There's air all around us, but for our body to make use of it, to keep us alive, it has to be brought into the lungs, then pumped through the body in the blood from the heart. The brain is the equivalent of the lungs and heart. Consciousness is all around us, but is accessed through our brain, which is the physical organ. But like the air, it's not confined to the lungs and heart and the body. It's all around us.
Good analogy. That's really good. So where do the different dimensions come into play on the human ladder? I know that here on Earth we operate at 3rd to 4th dimension, and we're now in the process of ascending to 5th dimension. How does all this play out on the human ladder?
The universe is simply the energy of consciousness, expressing at infinite vibrational frequencies. That's the only difference between everything that exists in the universe, just the rate of vibrational frequency. At the core, everything is part of oneness. There is no separation in the greater reality. All dimensions are present right across the whole human ladder, but down here we're only able to perceive to a very limited extent. This will increase as we evolve and more of our DNA becomes activated. In other words, it's all here, all here right now, but it's all to do with levels of perception, how much perception or awareness we can access. Here on level 1, we can perceive about 10%. Those on level 2 can perceive 20%, those on level 3, 30%, and so on, right up to the top of the ladder, where full 100% conscious awareness can be accessed. In other words, the ones right up there are pure consciousness, pure all-knowingness, omniscience, operating at oneness with Source. Omniscience. Can't have trouble with that word.
Yeah.
These ones are way beyond the need for physical form and so are not limited to physicality. The need for physical expression begins dropping away around level 3. So beings from that level and upwards tend to have very simple bodies, or physical forms.
Also, Judy, I noticed in the Zeta message book there's another crop circle illustrated as well, next to the picture of the one you drew. Did you know about that one?
No, I didn't. The publisher found it when he was checking out the other one. It was also done in Wiltshire in 2001. The upstairs family must have done too, just to make sure we got it right. It actually looks closer to the one I drew. It's a pretty complex concept to illustrate, so maybe they decided to create two glyphs rather than trying to get it all into one. No wonder we had trouble drawing it. The one on the cover of the Zeta message was huge, that, as I mentioned before, about 1,000 feet across and made up of 409 perfect circles.
Well, the other thing I noticed is that the one you drew has 10 arms or spirals coming off it, whereas both of theirs only have 6. So what's the story there?
Yes, that really confused me too for a while, so I kept nagging them for an answer. And Maris finally relented and explained the human ladder to me more deeply as I was writing the third book, Extraterrestrial Presence on Earth. When Oris first gave us the information, one of the other things he said was we live 10 lives on each level. Now this did not make sense to me because we live multiple lives on each level, as many as are needed to reach a higher level of self-realisation and awareness, and everyone proceeds at their own pace. There is no set time frame or number of lives. I now realise that with the information they gave us on the human ladder, 3 layers of meaning can be found within it. At first, I only understood the first 2, that it's a path of evolution on both the physical and the mind level of our being. However, it encompasses not only body and mind, but also higher soul consciousness as well. So it also illustrates that we are experiencing lives on all 10 levels of the ladder simultaneously. So 10 lives.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. The third, deeper layer of understanding that Oris was trying to get across to us is that we live a life on all 10 levels all at the same time. That's what he meant by living 10 lives on each level. The point to remember here is that our soul operates in oneness, which is the omnipresent and all-knowing God aspect of our being. God essence is within each and every one of us. The human ladder that they illustrated in the crop circle does have 10 levels, but it's only those ones of us who are focused consciously on the first 6 levels and able to fully express physicality. The first 3 levels are fully physical, but even those on levels 4, 5 and 6 who have evolved beyond the need to experience lives on a physical planet can, by lowering their vibrational frequency rate, experience a physical incarnation on a planet such as Earth, as a number of star people are now doing. However, once a soul consciousness has opened up to full awareness of levels 7 to 10, it's vibrating at too high a frequency to be able to experience a whole physical lifetime on a lower energy planet. Sure, there are aspects of the soul on all 10 levels, but the level 1 aspect cannot access the full conscious awareness of its higher aspects while in physical form, and the higher aspect cannot experience complete physicality on the lower levels. Now, let me illustrate this by using myself and Maris as examples. At those times when I link into my grey teacher Maris, who is on a much higher level of the ladder, I'm aware of a massive amount of knowledge and information potentially available, but my limited Earth human physically attached brain simply cannot process it. Even a Lorca, my Zeta aspect, can't fully access the vastly expanded consciousness of a level 8 elder. I know that Maris is an aspect of me that exists at a higher frequency and that he can express part of his consciousness through me, but he couldn't exist down here in his own right for the full span of a lifetime, just as I cannot express his full conscious awareness through my physical, earth human or lower level zeta brain. This concept very cleverly expressed in the Milk-Hill field illustration, with the first 3 physical levels and the next 3 potentially physical levels being represented in 3D reality through the 6 spiralling arms. However, the other 4 higher dimensional levels are there as well, right alongside the physical ones, but vibrating at a high frequency that cannot be perceived by our limited 3D human conscious awareness.
Yeah.
As in the case of all ET script, the 4 extra arms are superimposed over the 6 visible 3D ones. ET script always spans multiple dimensions and therefore needs to be read with deeper sensing than just physical sight. All genuine crop circles are multidimensional, but we can only see the flat 3D aspect. A hint of these deeper layers is given in the smaller circles that can be seen alongside the bigger spirals. There are a total of 409 circles, which numerologically adds up to 13, symbolically representing transformation, which is precisely what the human ladder is all about, transformation from an animal human to cosmic human.
That's a lot of information, Judy.
Oof, yeah.
And yes, we can only see the flat 3D aspect, and therein lies the rub. As curious human beings, we want to understand it all, and we're mostly operating from our 3D limited perspective.
That's for sure, and so much for my ET perspective. I didn't see it until Maris pointed it out to me. Then it was like, oh gee, of course, silly me, it's so darn obvious. Oh well, it just helps me to understand the difficulties we face as humans.
Yeah, that's for sure. Okay, I wanted to talk to you about your tall grey teacher, Maris. You mentioned earlier that another tall grey teacher, Oris, visits Helene and her family as well. I think we've also related a message from Serapis on our Just Love series. I'm not 100% sure, it could have been Oris. Anyway, there are 3 tall grey teachers that come through you, the main one being Maris. How did these tall grey teachers get their names?
My understanding is that they're all part of the same higher being, just different aspects, and the IS suffix on the end of their names is just a way of letting us know that they're connected to the mantids, or the mantis people, who are very highly evolved insectoid-type beings and who serve as elders to the greys. Maris once showed himself to me in his mantis form, which looked really weird and gave me a bit of a fright at the time, but next moment I was aware of melding with him energetically and the fear dissolved.
Okay, I also wanted to clarify here that Maris, Oris and Serapis come from much higher up on the human ladder, like you've said. They don't come from the Zeta Reticulum star system. Can you talk to us about where they do come from? Where do they reside on the human ladder? It's not easy to put all of this into 3D human language, so I really appreciate, and I know that our listeners will also appreciate what you have to say.
Yeah, Paula, they actually come from very high up, level 8 as far as I can understand. So they're really past the need to express in physical form. That's why they can appear down here briefly, but they need to work through ones like myself and others if physical contact or communication is required.
Okay, so Maris has been your partner in crime, so to speak, since your first ET contact. Is that correct? Maris has been with you for your entire journey here on Earth. You became consciously aware of his presence during your ET contact, but in hindsight, you knew that he'd been with you since the very beginning.
Yes, I became aware of having this very kind, wise old teacher around right from the very, very early in the piece. I was too scared as a child to recognise him, but I'd chosen for it to be that way, so I'd learned to understand the fear that Earth humans have of ET contact. But in my teens, I was able to allow my consciousness to open up more to enable me to get to know him and call on him for help. I was more attuned at that time to my gypsy background, being a dancer. So first I thought of him as being like a gypsy tribal chief. This worked well because I wasn't ready at that stage to be consciously aware of the ET side of things. I needed to still experience life fully as an Earth human. As time passed, I began to sense that he wasn't human, but rather more devic, which the Greys are anyway, with a close connection to the nature spirits. Then during the very full-on conscious encounter I had at age 30, I recognised him as being from off-planet. I could potentially still have been scared, but because I was so familiar and comfortable with him by then, I saw past the ET appearance and linked right into his energy field.
And how did that feel?
Oh, wow, it's just amazing, beyond words. I could feel this incredible depth of pure love and deep understanding between the two of us, and it was like a veil was pulled away from my eyes. I immediately recognised the other couple of Greys who were with him as family. So it was a real family reunion, but more than that, it was a reunion at the soul level of my being. And of course, Grey family being Grey family, they couldn't resist teasing me about hiding myself away for too long, and it was time for me to get back to work.
Well, there's no doubt about that Grey sense of humour, Judy. I think we've talked about that before.
Oh yes, and it's real family humour, which is a beautiful way of expressing love and connection. That's what I most love about being with them. Oris even told me a dad joke once when I was feeling a bit stressed, and I'll tell it one of these days. But this time I'd like to read out a message that they sent through to me right back on the 22nd of July 1992. It's entitled simply as A Message from the Guardian. So here it is. As planet Earth passes through the long-predicted shift into the Aquarian age, many more of us are returning here, coming dressed in physical forms that are familiar to you, as we do not wish for you to fear us. There is so much work to be done. Our special work is to raise and harmonise the vibrational energy frequency of the inhabitants of the planet, for as the frequency of Earth is heightened and refined, so must the energies of those living in your world be heightened and refined as well. If this is not done, the continuity of your existence here will not be possible. Even now, many of your people are unable to complete their physical lifespans because their energy frequency is not compatible with the changing frequency of the planet. Many of our people are not very familiar with physical manifestation and need to be awoken. The memory and understanding of their off-planet background has been temporarily wiped from their conscious mind, leaving them with an inexplicable feeling of strangeness and unfamiliarity with life in the physical world of humans. Certain ones of us have been placed here to awaken these ones to their mission. At this time of change, many more of us are returning to the earth plane in human form, in a physical form that all can see and relate to, not just those who have clairvoyance and psychic sensitivity, but all humankind, and most especially those ones whose inner sight and senses are not yet developed. These are the very ones in need of most help and guidance. If they cannot perceive us plainly, then how can they be reached for teaching and guidance? Time is short and they too need awakening. There are many still who are unprepared and unready, and also many who have been led astray by false masters and gurus who are all too willing to lead them further into darkness, misunderstanding and fear. Hopefully a level of openness and curiosity is still present within, which can be encouraged along more positive paths to enlightenment through love, patience and peace. Such souls must learn to appreciate and find strength in the simple joys of living and loving, and of being at peace within self, which in turn will enable them to feel peace and love towards others. They must come to understand that the ways of spirit are gentle and non-violent. If some of us seem a little different and strange in our ways, please bear with us and have patience. Our perceptions of existence and our life's values are slightly different from those who are evolving along the Earth-human line. Please be understanding as we are trying hard to adapt to Earth-human form and ways, but it is not always easy for us. Our energy frequency is slightly different from that of the human kingdom of Earth, and so you may feel a sensation of coldness in our presence. We share a deep affinity with the plants and animals and feel safety and comfort in their nearness. It is the lack of deeper knowledge and understanding on Earth that makes it necessary for us to carry out our work through physical human bodies. When people can see and touch us and perceive us as one of them, they are not afraid, whereas when we show ourselves in our true form, they can potentially feel fear. Many humans of Earth have yet to understand that physical form is simply an illusion, a mask, and that there are many, many others throughout the worlds, planes and dimensions whose forms are quite different in appearance, but who still strive to follow the path of God and oneness. Our voice is quiet and our ways are of peace. Those who wish to hear us must stop to listen, for we do not thrust our presence upon those who do not wish it, and we do not raise our voice to make ourselves heard above the clamour. The way of inner peace and quietude is the only path to deeper spiritual understanding. This is the first lesson that must be learned and mastered.
That's just simply amazing. Thank you so much, Judy, for that very informative message from the Guardians. Just a couple of questions here to tie this message back into the human ladder. Can you tell us who the Guardians are and on what level of the human ladder do they reside?
Yes, the Guardians reside from level 5 and upwards. For example, the 3 elders we work with are from level 8, so can therefore access approximately 80% of their potential conscious awareness. Oris once told us that they refer to themselves as workers of the angels or workers of oneness.
So Oris, Maris and Serapis also come under the name of the Guardians?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
workers
yes.
of angels or workers of oneness.
Yeah.
Okay, so the message starts by saying, as planet Earth passes through the long predicted shift into the Aquarian Age, many more of us are returning here, coming dressed in physical forms that are familiar to you, as we do not wish for you to fear us. Does that mean that the Guardians are returning here to assist us dressed in human form?
Yes, they're here, both in human and higher forms. Ones like myself and others are here in Earth human form, but we're guided by and connected to higher teachers like Maris and Oris, who cannot live a whole lifetime here, as I explained in the section on the human ladder. But at the same time, all the dimensions are right here, right now. So they are here, but residing in a different dimension.
Goodness me. Okay, so the message goes on to say that many of our people are not very familiar with physical manifestations and need to be awoken. The memory and understanding of their off-planet background has been temporarily wiped from their conscious mind, leaving them with an inexplicable feeling of strangeness and unfamiliarity with life in the physical world of humans. Certain ones of us have been placed here to awaken these ones to their mission. So does this part of the this part of the message seems to be twofold. Initially, the Guardians are saying that some of the souls who volunteered to come here to this planet at this most significant point in time have forgotten who they truly are and are still slumbering. Then the second part tells us that there are others here to assist in awakening them to their predestined mission.
Yes, exactly. Maris told me this many years ago and explained that this is a big part of my work down here, to put the information and energy out through my books and talks to help some of these ones to wake up. He said that I'm actually emitting a sort of energy signal from my aura that others of our kind pick up on when they're ready.
Okay. So the message ends by saying, our voice is quiet and our ways are of peace. Those who wish to hear us must stop to listen, for we do not thrust our presence upon those who do not wish it, and we do not raise our voice to make ourselves heard over the clamour. The way of inner peace and quietude is the only path to deeper spiritual understanding. This is the first lesson that must be learned and mastered. So, be still and know that you are not alone. We are all one.
Absolutely, for sure. And this message is vital for Earth plane humanity. We are indeed all one, both from the perspective of humanity here on Earth, who desperately need to stop fighting and promoting separation and division, and from the cosmic perspective as well. All we want is for the people of Earth to join us as part of the greater cosmic community.
Amen. And on that note, we will finish for today. So just to remind you all, Judy's books are available through Amazon and Kindle, or you can go directly through Judy's website, which is included in the link below. If you like this video, please share it with your friends and family and subscribe to this channel. Again, thanks Judy, and we look forward to our next Q&A session. Bye for now.